The truth is very triggering to CNN, and they like to pretend that they're still the most trusted name in news. They like to pretend that Jake Tapper and Dana Bash are real journalists, unbiased people, when that's just not the case. And anyone with eyes and ears can see that.
What does this tell you? I mean, can Trump even get a fair debate if you're simply trying to state a fact and they go to commercial?
Well, ironically, whether they wanted to or not, they proved the point that I was trying to make in that segment. That is, CNN is a hostile environment, and President Trump is knowingly going into this hostile environment on Thursday night because he believes so deeply in his message, and he is so committed to bringing that message to the American public that he will engage in a 3-on-1 debate. So President Trump will still be there on Thursday night. And today, the world our point was proven right, that CNN is no friend of Donald Trump. Everyone knows that. And the cards are stacked for Joe Biden before Thursday's debate.
Trump campaign spokesperson Caroline Leavitt is complaining because she's the Trump spokesperson. All Donald Trump does is cry and complain. All his campaign does is cry and complain. They complain about losing the 2020 election. They complain about him being convicted of his crimes. They complain about his foot soldiers sitting in prison. They complain about teleprompters at rallies. They complain about the media, complain about protesters, because they have nothing else to offer except hate and complaints. And this is what Leavitt was most recently complaining about.
We played that to remind everyone that that was some of what they saw on the debate stage in 2020. Of course, President Trump went on to lose that election to Joe Biden. Can you tell us what Donald Trump is going to do differently on the debate stage this time?
Sure. Well, President Trump is well prepared ahead of Thursday's debates. Unlike Joe Biden, he doesn't have to hide away and have his advisors tell him what to say. President Trump knows what he wants to say, and he's going to relay his vision to the American people to make this country strong, safe, secure, and wealthy again. He's been doing that across this great nation to all corners of this country. That's why he was in Detroit, Michigan last week. He was in Philadelphia for a big rally on Saturday night. And that's why President Trump is knowingly going into a hostile environment on this very network, on CNN, with debate moderators who have made their opinions about him very well known over the past 8 years and their biased coverage of him. So President Trump is willing to bring his message to every corner of this country, to voters, to ensure that he wins this election in November. He looks forward to doing that. And I know the American public look forward to hearing from him.
So I'll just say my colleagues, Jake Tapper and Dana Bash, have acquitted themselves as professionals as they have covered campaigns and interviewed candidates from all sides of the aisle. I'll also say that if you talk to analysts of debates previous, that if you're attacking the moderators, you're usually losing. So I really want to focus in on what these two men are going to do and say.
Ever since Trump cornered himself by claiming he'd debate Biden anytime, anywhere, he and his media partners have been scrambling to downplay his chances and have been attacking CNN for being unfair before the debate even happens. Sounds familiar to their plan of claiming elections are stolen before elections even happen. But this was their ultimate objective.
What do you expect from Joe Biden?
Well, first of all, it would take someone 5 minutes to Google Jake Tapper, Donald Trump, to see that Jake Tapper has consistently, frequently likened President Trump to Adolf Hitler.
Ma'am, I'm going to stop this interview if you continue to attack my colleagues. I would like to talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who you work for.
Yes.
If you are here to speak on his behalf, I am willing to have this conversation.
I am stating facts that your colleagues have stated in the past.
Okay.
Now,
I'm sorry, guys. We're going to come back out to the panel. Caroline, thank you very much for your time. You are welcome to come back at any point. She is welcome to come back and speak about Donald Trump, and Donald Trump will have equal time to Joe Biden when they both join us now at later this week in Atlanta for this debate. Our thanks to Caroline.
But you see, they're not crybaby complainers for no reason. They do it so that their supporters won't realize that Donald Trump offers nothing to the American people. So as they prepare to debate Biden this week, his spokesperson needs to get some video of her fighting with CNN so that their unfair narrative will have some credibility with their supporters. So if Trump embarrasses himself, they'll blame the unfair network for asking him questions and not letting him bulldoze the debate. Here's phase two.
How are we possibly having a debate with a network it's so biased that they show absolutely no respect to the president's national press secretary? When you were bringing up what we refer to as news items, it is a news story and a news item that Jake Tapper hates President Trump and has a history of it on social media. Same with Dana Bash.
CNN showed their hand with me on their network this morning. The fact that they cut off my microphone simply for repeating words that Jake Tapper himself has said, lies about President Trump. So Jake Tapper can go on the air and spew those lies all they want. But when I simply try to repeat them, which is relevant because he's a moderator at Thursday's debate, they cut me off and kicked me off. It was honestly shocking what occurred this morning. But it shows that this is not going to be a fair debate on Thursday. And President Trump knows that, Steve. He knows that. He knows he's going into a lion's den. It's going to be a 3-on-1 fight with Crooked Joe, who's been getting doped up and hiding away in the woods at Camp David all week, and Dana Bash and Jake Tapper. But it just speaks to President Trump's determination and resolve.
Cassie Hunt owes you an apology. CNN owes you an apology today. And if we don't get that apology to Caroline Leavitt and to the Trump campaign and to MAGA today, President Trump should cancel this.
It's not the flex that you think it is. It's actually pathetic. It's not even a foregone conclusion that Joe Biden is going to destroy Trump in this debate. But when you deploy your spokesperson onto CNN to start fights and get kicked off to fuel a narrative that eventually leads to your guy running away from Sleepy Joe, you look like a chump. How is being scared of old man Biden going to convince voters that you're not lying about how much you intimidate world leaders? And like I've said before, Donald Trump's con artist game isn't even very good. Complaining about moderators and networks is one of the ways that he scurried away from having to face Nikki Haley, Chris Christie, and Ron DeSantis. This is from last summer during the primaries.
Then you have a hostile network like Fox. Like when I did the interview with Brett, I thought it was fine. I thought it was okay, but there was nothing friendly about it. You know, it was nasty. And I thought I did a good job. I've been given credit for doing a good job, but I've also, people said, why would you do it? Because it was really, you know, everything was like an unfriendly. It was always, everything was unfriendly. No smiling, no let's have fun, let's make America great again. Everything was like a hit. So, you know, you have a hostile network and you have people that are obviously their candidates are against you, and they therefore are being hostile. And if you're leading by 30, 40, or 50 points, what's the purpose of really doing it?
Whining and crying about how Fox News is hostile to him. The network that had to pay out $787 million for constantly lying on his behalf after he lost in 2020. And he was complaining that he wasn't friendly enough, that there wasn't enough smiles and people wanting to have fun. The guy's a toddler. You know, at some point, supporters have to open their ears and recognize that Donald Trump does more damage to himself than Democrats do. But the propaganda doesn't let up long enough for them to catch on, partially because that hostile network will carry his panicked message to avoid embarrassment again.
Make of this, the media, including at CNN, is now pushing back on lawmakers demanding that President Biden take a drug test before and after the CNN presidential debate to see if Biden is taking any stimulants or drugs. But it looks like this Biden White House congresswoman has so bullied and threatened the media with cutting them off. The media is effectively saying, cover this up, deny it, denounce this, keep Americans in the dark about Biden's true condition. You know, this sounds like Biden's version of don't ask, don't tell. We know everything he does is on a teleprompter or scripted. Where do you come down, doctor, on this?
Well, first and foremost, let me say as an ophthalmologist, I deal mostly with elderly patients. Number two, my mother had Alzheimer's and I took care of her for the majority of the last few years of her life. And then number three, I've been to the White House several times for bill signings, and all of us have seen the degradation of President Biden's cognitive facilities.
Those drugs are out there. They treat the cognition part of it. They try to, make it where he can think straighter and he's not lost and confused as much. And then there's drugs that actually just increase alertness, like Adderall and other types of amphetamine type drugs, maybe Provigil, things like that. And then there's a host of drugs that try to take the agitated edge off of most of these cognitive disorders. So I feel like they're probably giving him a little bit of all of this. They just have to get it just right. They all have different times of onset. They have different duration. They interact with each other. So it's, it's a challenge, but I think they have no choice with what they're working with.
Such hostility from Fox News. Maybe Trump should back out of the debate if Biden doesn't take a drug test before, during, and afterwards. It's a more extreme resetting of reality so that when those fantasyland scenarios don't happen, he can whine and cry to his gullible fans again. His worst tendencies are coddled by people that know better, leaving Joe Biden looking like a bully if he highlights Trump's astronomical levels of incompetence. So former Republican Nicole Wallace tossed out a little advice for an approach he can take to tear down Trump's tendency to lean on his worst qualities, which I only kind of agree with.
I prepared a lot of folks who weren't great at debating. And what you need is a self-own. And I think in this moment, Joe Biden has to go out there with a self-own on the age thing. I mean, I'm so old, I may not make it through the next 90 minutes without needing to sit down and taking a sip of water. But I'll never disgrace the office of the presidency. I'll never hand state secrets over to the enemy. I'll never call Vladimir Putin a really smart guy. I'll never frame a love letter from Kim Jong-un. In fact, Kim Jong-un hates my guts. You know why? Because I call him an evil dictator, not the love of my life. I mean, he has to come in there and punch him in the face with his own boasts. Trump boasts about things that are traitorous. Trump boasts about things that are disgusting. Trump boasts about grabbing women between the legs. And if Biden doesn't go in there and punch him in the face with his own things he's proud of, then the thing is lost before it starts.